My preeclampsia went from mild to extremely severe. Truly, my kidneys were failing. I'm gonna start crying. I just cried my eyes out making this video. This is my birth story with Zara. This is still hard for me to talk about, so that's why I get so emotional in this video. Not all my videos are gonna be like this. This one is just like really close to my heart, and I hope you enjoy. So I have all of my notes here so that I don't forget anything. I also have my bin of makeup that I'm going to use today. I normally would sit at my vanity, but the lighting is just so much better in my living room, so we're just going to do it out here. So Zara was born on October 28th at 10:22 a.m. by C-section, emergency C-section at that. So I had Zara 2 months early, and it was very unexpected, and there were a lot of things leading up to why I had to give birth at 33 weeks, so we're gonna talk about it. So on October 17th, I went to the ER for the very first time in my life because I was having some chest pains. And normally I just kind of be like, I'll be fine, I'll just take some ibuprofen and I'll be good. But since I was pregnant, I was like, okay, well, I might as well just go into the ER and see what they have to say about it. They did a CT scan of my chest, they did an ultrasound, they monitored the baby, and did a bunch of blood work. Something was in my blood that showed potential blood clots, and so that's why they did a CT scan to see if they could see blood clots like in my heart or in my lungs. It came back negative, so they just told me to go home and simply just rest. So I go home and I'm feeling okay for the next few days, and then next week hits and I had a doctor's appointment on that following Monday. Let me check the date just because I want to give you guys the exact dates. Okay, so I went to the ER for the first time on Thursday, October 17th. I was fine over the weekend, and then on Monday I had a doctor's appointment, just a routine visit with my OB. Did some blood work with my OB just to see if she could tell me why I was having some chest pains the week before. So she actually did notice that my protein levels in my urine were kind of high. Protein in urine is called creatinine. And then she also noticed that my blood pressure was slightly high, but she wasn't concerned about it yet, just because when you're pregnant, your blood pressure could get higher. She wanted me to keep a close eye on my blood pressure just to make sure that it wouldn't get any worse. So I had to monitor my blood pressure like from home, like twice a day. She then gave me a list of things that could be wrong, and preeclampsia was one of the things that could be wrong with me. I didn't really care what was going on with me as long as Zara was okay. Today was Tuesday the 22nd, and I woke up and I did not feel good at all. I felt extremely fatigued, and so my plan was just to lay in bed all day. I went to roll over in bed, and all of a sudden my heart rate just jumped up to like 180 beats a minute, and I felt extremely lightheaded, like I was gonna pass out. I called my husband, I called my mom, and they both ran over here and ended up taking me back to the ER, but this time we went to a different ER because I didn't like the last one. So we went to a different emergency room and told them everything that was happening. And they did some more tests, and they still couldn't really figure out why I was having chest pain. The only thing that was going through my head was whatever happens, happens as long as Zara is okay. So basically at the end of that ER appointment, the doctor just told me to keep taking my blood pressure and tracking it for my OB, and that was that. Then he just sent me home. When my OB saw that I ended up back in the ER, she wanted me to come in that following Friday to do some more tests, and so that she could monitor Zara too, just so that we could make sure that she was okay. So I go in on Friday and they do a bunch of lab work, and this time they were really wanting to keep track of my creatinine levels because they were a little bit higher a few days before when I went in that Monday. So my labs came back, and the issues that my OB was worried about came back, and they were extremely elevated. like my creatinine levels. So there were a few other concerns that she was worried about. One of them was my swelling. I had really bad swelling, and I know that you get swelling in pregnancy, but mine was so bad and like it was kind of painful in my legs. Another one was my blood pressure was continuing to get higher, and then my chest pains were still there. After we got all the results back from all my labs, my OB looked at all of my problems that I was having, and she diagnosed me with preeclampsia that Friday, the 25th, I'm pretty sure. And she's telling me all these things. She's telling me that, you know, I need to take it easy for the next 2 months pretty much, and I probably will be having this baby at 37 weeks, which I was so stressed. At this point I was 32 and a half weeks, and I was super stressed because I was like, okay, well that's like 3 less weeks that I have to get things ready. She also gave me a pamphlet that kind of talks about preeclampsia and the things that it could lead up to if it gets extreme. And you know, one of the things that it said in there was kidney and liver failure. Another thing in there was high risk of seizures. Seizures freak me out so bad. I actually was more scared of the seizures than I was the kidney failure. I didn't really know what preeclampsia was until I obviously got diagnosed with it, and I mainly was just worried about Zara. Like, I just wanted to know that she was gonna be okay, and I went home and I just prayed and I said, please just have everything be okay with Zara. Like, I can't have anything happen to her. I immediately got this feeling like, oh, I'm gonna start crying. I just immediately got this feeling like everything was gonna be okay with her, and that I really just needed to focus on getting healthy. I can't cry, I'm doing my makeup right now. The next day was Saturday the 26th. Usually Zara wakes me up in the morning by like kicking me, but I could not feel her moving on Saturday morning. Tried to get her to move a little bit, but I was like, oh, maybe she's just tired and she's, you know, just wanting to sleep. I told Hunter before we went to breakfast, I was like, hey, like Zara's not really moving very much. Like I can't really feel her. And he's like, okay, well, maybe you just need to eat, because usually when I eat some like sugary food, like then that gets her moving. We went to breakfast and I am eating a ton because I'm like, I want to eat whatever I can to get her to move. I drank a bunch of juice. I had like a ton of carbs, and she still was not moving. When Zara was in my stomach, she would jump to loud noises, and so we tried a bunch of loud noises, and she usually would respond to Hunter when Hunter would talk to her, so Hunter would try and talk to her. We tried everything to get Zara to move, and she was not moving. And I knew that it was serious because Hunter was starting to freak out a little bit, so we went up to the maternity ward where I was going to give birth. We told them what was going on. They immediately hooked me up to a non-stress test device to make sure that she still had a heartbeat. Good news is she did. We just couldn't figure out why she wasn't moving. I was extremely thankful that my OB was on call this weekend, and so she was actually there and was able to perform the non-stress test and to try and get Zara to move. They did an ultrasound for like 30 minutes, and the doctor was like pushing her, trying to get her to move, and she just still would not budge. My doctor just told me, she was like, okay, so there's a couple different things that we need to consider. If she doesn't move, she might need to come out of you sooner than 37 weeks. Like, you might be having this baby like in the next few days. So they also told me that since she wasn't moving and since my blood pressure was still high, that they wanted me to stay the weekend in the maternity ward. Since I was diagnosed with preeclampsia the day before, they wanted me to do a 24-hour urine sample to make sure that my kidneys weren't failing, essentially. My OB also told me that the reason Zara wasn't moving was because she was stressed and she was potentially preparing herself for labor. Once she said that, that really freaked me out, and I was like, oh wow, okay, so I could actually probably be having this baby in the next few days. So over the next 24 hours, I was on complete bed rest, but I was staying monitored and I was having continued tests done. Like every 2 to 4 hours I had some sort of test that was being done on me. Honestly, as terrifying as all of the tests and the baby. Oh, my legs are asleep. I'm gonna go feed Zara and then we'll continue. I'll be honest, I was actually really scared on the inside, but the only thing that was keeping me going is knowing that Zara was okay, and hearing her little heartbeat on the monitors is what I knew was going to make everything okay. So since I was diagnosed with preeclampsia just the day before all of this was happening, the doctors were looking for three main things, and it was the protein in my urine, my blood pressure, and my chest pains. So that's why I was doing a 24-hour urine sample, so that they could test how much protein I was getting in my urine within 24 hours. So I'm editing this video right now, and I just realized that I never really got into detail about what it means to have protein in your urine. So pretty much what it means is that your kidneys aren't functioning properly and they're allowing too much protein to leak into your urine, and essentially that could lead to kidney failure. So since my creatinine levels were high to begin with, that's why they diagnosed me with mild preeclampsia. Sunday night, my 24-hour urine sample came back. I keep forgetting to do makeup while I'm talking. Normal levels of protein in your urine, aka creatinine levels, are anywhere between 1 and 150 milligrams. Mine was at 8,300, so that meant my kidneys were failing. And the only thing that could keep this from getting worse is giving birth. I remember when the nurse came in and told me and Hunter what my creatinine levels were at like midnight. Me and Hunter just both were silent, and the nurse was like, yeah, you're probably gonna be giving birth tomorrow. Actually told me the wrong number. She told me that it was at 3,000, and we were like, oh my gosh, that is so high. Am I gonna be okay? When my doctor came in, she said, oh yeah, it wasn't at 3,000, it was at 8,300. My preeclampsia went from mild to extremely severe. She told me that she has only seen creatinine levels this bad one other time, and they were at 9,000. And it was really bad. So she's like, we had to get special permission from maternal and fetal medicine to have a preterm birth, but she's like, we got approved for it, so we need to get this baby out of you this morning. So the next thing I know, they wheel me into the C-section room with Hunter, and the medicine that they gave me before they did my spinal made me so sick. I had to sit up on the operating table, and Hunter just had to hold me while I was throwing up literally in his lap. And they were injecting the spinal in me while I was throwing up. I'm telling our birth story. I'm at the part where I threw up in your lap when I had my spinal done.
Yeah, that was fun to watch that go into your back.
Then just like that, at 10:22 a.m. on October 28th, I had Zara Milan Clark via emergency C-section. When I saw Zara for the first time, it was like the most magical thing that has ever happened. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do skin to skin with her right after she was born because she had to hurry and get hooked up to a CPAP machine. After she got hooked up to her machine and they sewed me back up, I was able to go and see her, and they rested her little body on my face, and that is a moment that I'll never forget, and I'm so glad that that doctor allowed me to do that with her. After my C-section, I was put on a very high dose of magnesium through an IV because my preeclampsia was so high, my kidneys were failing. So the magnesium was to help me from not having seizures because of how bad it was. I am extremely sensitive to medicine, and this magnesium made me so sick. I was throwing up for every 20 to 30 minutes for a straight 18 hours. My poor husband. When I was on my magnesium, they were testing my magnesium levels every 2 hours. And so they finally were able to lower it like after like 18 hours after or something like that. And I hate throwing up more than anything. I would rather get hit by a truck than throw up. So the other thing about being on magnesium is I literally could not move my body at all. Like, it was the weirdest experience that I just like could not move. And then on top of that, I had blurry vision for like 48 hours after, to the point where I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see what was on my phone. Like, I saw that people were texting me and calling me and everything, but I was like, I don't know who this is. Like, I can't see anything. I had blurry vision for probably a good week and a half after that. It just wasn't as bad. The day after I had Zara, my OBGYN came in, and she was just talking to me about everything that happened during the C-section and how everything went great. Zara was doing really well down in the NICU. She also told me why Zara stopped moving in the first place. And this is something that I'll never forget. She said that the reason that Zara stopped moving is because she knew that my body was under a lot of stress from my kidneys failing. And so she started to prepare for labor, and it actually saved my life. Because if I didn't go into the hospital that day to get her checked because she wasn't moving, there's a chance that I couldn't be here today and she wouldn't be here today. I just can't wait to tell her that story when she's older. The first time that I got to do skin to skin with Zara was a couple days after she was born. And this is also a moment that I'll never forget. Okay, I can't start crying again. I just will never forget it. It like leaves me speechless because how grateful I am that she was okay and that I was okay. It was in that moment that I realized, like, we're okay, we're gonna be okay. You can see this is still all like very fresh and still like kind of sensitive for me to talk about. So we were in the hospital for a total of 6 days and 7 nights. The day that I got discharged was one of the hardest moments of my life, and I had so much guilt leaving Zara in the hospital, where I cried the whole drive home because I just felt so sad. It was also this day that I got discharged was when I started to feel some weird like crampy pain in the back of my left knee. I didn't really think anything of it. I just kind of thought, oh, that's weird. I probably just need to drink some more water. I must just have like a Charlie horse in the back of my leg or something. So for the next few days, me and Hunter basically lived at the NICU. We were there all the time. I was there like literally all day. I would just go to the NICU and just hold her all day. And keep in mind, I'm still having that pain in the back of my leg. So that following Wednesday, I woke up with breast pain, just like body aches and pains, and I was like, what the heck is going on? Like, am I sick? I actually checked if I had a fever, and I didn't have a fever that morning, and so I was like, that's weird. I don't know why I'm feeling so sick. I wasn't gonna go to the NICU that day, but I just kind of had a feeling that I needed to be there, and so I kind of just like pushed it aside. I told Hunter that I wasn't feeling very good, but I was like, I'll be fine. Like, I'm fine. Go to the NICU that day, and I just do not feel good at all. Like, I can just feel my body temperatures rising, and my body aches and pains are getting so much worse. My freaking boobs hurt so bad. The pain in the back of my leg was also just getting so much worse. At the end of the night, when Hunter got off work, he came to the NICU to be with me and Zara, and he was like, are you okay? Like, something doesn't seem right. And I was like, I feel terrible. Like, I don't know what's going on. I was like, I think I need to go home. At this point, I couldn't drive yet, and Hunter had a meeting that he had to be to, and so he couldn't take me home. My mom got off work a little bit early. She came to the NICU, she saw my condition, and she was like, okay, no, like, we need to go downstairs and we need to go into the ER. And I was like, no, I'm not going to the ER. I just need to go home and I need to sleep. My leg hurt so bad that I couldn't even walk out of the NICU. They had to bring me a wheelchair. I told my mom, I was like, I'm not going back to the ER, and I just need to go home and I just need to sleep. And we got out of the elevator to get to the parking lot, and I just had this overwhelming feeling like, you need to go to the ER. So finally I realized, you know what, okay, I actually do need to go to the ER. Something is really wrong with me. It got to the point where my pain was so bad that I could barely speak. My mom took me down to the ER, and I got checked in, and they were like, oh, you don't look so good. I just knew. They're like, is this like an emergency? And I was like, I think I'm gonna pass out if I don't get some help like right now. I could barely lift my arm up for them to take my blood pressure. When they took my blood pressure, it was extremely high. I ended up sitting there for about 10 minutes, and then they wheeled me into a patient room. So I told the doctor everything that was going on with my body that day. He was concerned that the pain in my left leg could be a blood clot. So I have to read off all of the different tests that they did because I can't remember them all. So after they did an ultrasound on my knee and my chest, an echocardiogram, a CT scan, lots of blood work, and being monitored, the ER doctor told me that I had a pretty good size blood clot on the back of my left knee. I also had 2 blood clots on the lower part of my lungs. Sorry, I'm just reading some of this so that I don't forget anything. I had an elevated heart rate and high blood pressure. On top of that, I also had mastitis, which is why I had so much breast pain and a fever. My fever got up to 104, and my white blood cell count was also extremely high because of the infection of the mastitis. So that wasn't helping my blood pressure or my heart rate at all either. So I forgot to mention that at this point, I was feeling so overwhelmed, and I felt so bad that Zara was just in the NICU by herself that I actually sent Hunter up to the NICU to just go hold Zara because I just wanted someone to be with her. My mom was downstairs with me, and the doctor was telling me all these things that was wrong, and he said, you know, the good thing is these blood clots aren't the ones that will kill you instantly, and it's a good thing that you came in when you did. And I was like, oh my gosh, like if I wouldn't have gone into the ER, like I don't even want to know what could have happened to me. Sorry, I needed to come sit on the couch because Zara was freaking out. The ER doctor readmitted me back to the hospital. Luckily it was the same hospital that Zara was in. So I got readmitted, and I asked how many days he thought I was gonna have to stay there, and he said he had no idea. Well, actually he told me initially it was only supposed to be 24 hours, and then I'll just spoiler, it wasn't. It was longer than 24 hours. He also told me that in order to get rid of my blood clots that I would have to give myself blood thinner shots twice a day for at least 3 months. I have always hated shots, and giving myself shots twice a day has been one of the hardest things for me to do. The day after I got readmitted to the hospital, I had spent the whole day with Zara in the NICU, and there were people that were coming down and talking to me about my problems that I was having. The thing is Zara wasn't even having any problems. She was perfectly fine. Like, she was actually doing really, really well for being 33 weeks. So that night, after I'd spent the whole day in the NICU with Zara, I feel like I had been able to keep it together pretty well, even like with the C-section and having a NICU baby and giving birth so early, having the blood clots. Like, I feel like I was doing pretty well up until the night after I got readmitted into the hospital, and I kind of just lost it a little bit. Hunter just held me as I just cried, just because I didn't know what was gonna happen. If the doctors made the slightest mistake, like, something really bad could happen to me. It really just hit me like how scary everything was. Like, what if the blood clots got worse in my lungs, or you know, what if my heart rate got too high, or my blood pressure got too high, or what happens after I get out of the hospital and something happens to me. And I just had to have a lot of faith and a lot of trust in these doctors, and like Hunter gave me so many blessings, and I know that I had so many people like praying and sending like good positive vibes, and it was a really, really hard time. I so bad just wanted to be so strong for Hunter and for Zara and like for myself, but I just felt so weak and just so small in that moment. And even like looking back at it now, it like still is really hard, and it's really hard for me to talk about. But I ended up getting discharged from the hospital. I think 3 days later. I was in the hospital for 3 days, and like I was fine after that. I obviously still had to do my blood thinner shots, and I actually am gonna be on my blood thinner shots for a while because the blood clots were so bad. My doctor ended up telling me that like I can't do any high impact activities or anything that could cause me to potentially fall, because if I were to fall, like I could have internal like bleeding in my head. Like, I have to be very super careful about the things that I do for the next 6 months. There's no cure for preeclampsia, and so there is a good chance that it will come back, especially with how severe mine was, which makes me really nervous actually to have more kids. I feel like I got really lucky and I was really blessed with a lot of things that happened with my situation. I have never felt more blessed and more prayers in my life. I had so many people watching out for me, including God, and like, I knew that he had a plan for me, and I will never be able to comprehend the amount of gratitude that I have towards the doctors that helped me, that helped Zara, and I just feel so extremely blessed. I mean, what happened to me was unfortunate, but I know that it happened for a reason. It really just made me realize that I need to listen to my body. And if there's anything that you can get out of this story, it's listening to your body. If you think something is wrong, there's a good chance something's wrong. I didn't want to make this video for anyone to be sorry for me or to feel sorry for me. I simply just wanted to make it because, like, this is my story. This is mine and Zara's story. Sorry about that. I got cut off because my camera died. But what I went through gave me a whole different perspective on life, and it made me a better mom, a better wife, just a better person in general. And I will never take anything that I have for granted because of everything that I went through. If you think something's wrong with your body, listen to it, because there is a good chance that there is. So I know this isn't something that I will typically post, and I doubt you'll see me cry on here ever, but this is an extremely emotional story for me to tell. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in my next video.